Welcome. This is our live stream.
Wait,
Seniors.
I have to say that it's going live. Hold on, it's going. Un minutito.
Thank you for joining us for our webinar. Let's talk seniors and teens. Our live stream.
Wait, I have to say that it's going live. Hold on, it's going. Un minutito.
Can we go? Joining us. I'm beginning again. I'm sorry if there's been some technical difficulty. Anyway, this is our live stream, our webinar, our intergenerational webinar. Let's talk seniors and teens. The topic is jobs and careers. My name is Bruce Grossberg. I'm the chairperson of the Aging, Social Services and Disability Committee of Community Board 6 in Queens. It covers Forest Hills and Rico Park. The event is being co-sponsored by Community Board 6 and Common Point Queens and the Intergenerational Coalition and Let's Talk Democracy and Be the Light NYC and the Forest Hills Green Team. And this is 8th or 9th in a series of intergenerational webinars that we've done over the last 3 or 4 years. It's a panel conversation with 3 teenagers and 3 seniors, whatever that means, to talk about the issues of jobs and careers. We have 3 teenage panelists with us today. We have Melanie Gonzalez, Ian Cervantes, and Lupita Vargas. And they'll talk more about themselves as the afternoon goes on, as will our senior panelists, Diana Paley, Dr. David Hegarty, and Riley Jones-Cohen. Faja Muhammad is from Common Point, Queens, where I think she runs about everything. She'll tell you more about that. And she'll be moderating the panel. And now I will turn the panel over to Faja.
Hi, everyone. So welcome. We're so excited to be here. And I guess we're going to get started. How's everybody feeling? Great.
Good.
Good. So why don't we go one by one, introduce yourselves, and then we'll go with the question. We'll start with Dr. David.
Hello, one and all. David Hegarty. I'm a retired CEO of a child welfare agency based on Long Island. I've had a variety of volunteer jobs. I think that there's an equivalency between volunteering and internship, and we can talk about that more a little later. But over the years, I was a school board member and president. I was elected in my 20s and served for 9 years as president, which was unusual on Long Island, and was certainly instrumental in giving me access to career opportunities as time went on. I was also a volunteer firefighter and EMT in a different community for over 30 years, including 6 years as a fire chief. Presently, I volunteer as a backcountry patrol ranger at the Mohonk Preserve. I live in the Hudson Valley now, and I go out and do backcountry patrols. So I'm a big fan of volunteering. If you know anything about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the pinnacle of the pyramid is self-actualization. And I think that volunteering and involvement in a variety of activities really does give a person the opportunity to self-actualize, to really try on different roles, to express yourself in different ways, to challenge yourself. So I'm a big believer in doing the things that interest you, not just the things that pay. So that's me.
Love it. Great introduction. I just want to introduce Esmeralda Gonzalez, who is I want to say chair of Be the Light. She's also employment coordinator at Common Point Queens, and she's joining us today. She is the one who brought all these amazing teenagers to this intergenerational coalition. So welcome, Esmeralda. We're so happy that you're here.
Thank you.
Awesome. So Diana?
There, I'm unmuted.
I don't consider myself to be very special, but I live in Queens. Um, I have had a variety of life experiences. I told some of the group here, I started out of high school, out of a Catholic high school, and thought I was going to be a nun, and that didn't work out. Um, but as a matter of fact, my first job, I hurried up to finish college, which was very important to me. Got out of college and had not a clue what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And so my first job actually was offered to me by one of my teachers who realized what I had been going through trying to adjust into the real world. And so she was starting up a new unit of continuing education, which at that point was something new in this entity within the college. And we were a group of three. I worked as a secretary because I had done secretarial jobs trying to get myself paying my tuition through school. And that was, I guess, my first job, which had very little to do with what my ultimate, I guess, professional career was, which was about 20 years working in a pension and insurance company where I worked myself up to be an officer ultimately before I retired. And I guess, so I didn't apply for it. It sort of fell in my lap. And unfortunately, I can look back now and tell you that I wasted an opportunity there because I did it and was sort of kind of floating and really didn't get involved in what was going on there. And there was so much I could have learned had I given myself an opportunity to work at something that wasn't whatever my ultimate career goal was. And in retrospect, it's unfortunate that I didn't because it took a while. I did try teaching for a year after that, which was not a good match for a number of reasons. And ultimately, I finally figured out that what I needed to do was to put together a resume, go talk to a friend of my mother's who worked at a large organization finding jobs for folks, and she helped me. Actually, they offered me a job as a trainee, and that was more up my line. And so I became what they call a life underwriter. I had to study medicine. I had to study law. I had to study insurance. I had to study financial planning ultimately. And so I worked myself up within that organization, moving from one function to another. And again, I was fortunate. I didn't have to compete the way that people do right now. And I guess the biggest thing that I could offer as maybe a takeaway from what I learned is that, sometimes you get into a situation where you have a job or an opportunity or you're volunteering, and you can get a whole lot from it. I could have benefited tremendously from a group such as this in those days, but this was 1972, and for a variety of reasons, that just was not available. So, I think you guys have some really, really good opportunities, and you have some people who are going to be helpful or willing to help you find your future. So
yeah, this is why we're going to have this webinar, because we're going to talk about careers, how careers were back then and how careers are now. Like, I remember when I used to have to look for a job, I went door to door. And now we have access to so many more stuff. Riley, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Riley Jones Cohen. I am the outcast here. I live in Manhattan. I will be celebrating my 81st birthday in less than a month, and I'm still
Okay.
working. So I'm not sure. I'm very good about talking to you guys about picking a career because I've done a bunch of stuff. I don't understand how people can choose one career, but that's me. I just was recently diagnosed with ADHD, so obviously I wouldn't be able to pick one career. I'm originally from Maryland, so I'm not from New York. I moved to New York in the late 60s, and I will tell you more when we get to the questions.
Awesome. No, and I'm with you. I've changed careers so many times, and I just started a nonprofit 5 years ago, which I absolutely love. But yeah,
Yeah.
I love doing different things, and this is
Yeah.
why I love the nonprofit, because you have so many different programs and so many different things, and you get creative and so on. So this is amazing. I would
Yeah,
love to hear
I
from
agree.
you guys. Yeah. So now we're gonna with the teenagers, the amazing teenagers. Melanie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. My name is Melanie, and I'm part of Be the Light Youth Crew.
Awesome. And Lupita?
Hello, my name is Lupita, and I'm also a part of Be the Light Youth Group, and I'm a sophomore in college right now. So
Oh wow, amazing. Ian.
Hello, I'm Ian Cervantes. I'm also one of the youths in Be the Light. Uh, yeah, I live in Queens.
Great. Somebody will ask the first question to the older adults. You guys already kind of mentioned what your first job was. So how did you decide on your career path, and would you do anything differently? Let's start with that. We're gonna go in order. Dr. David, Diana, and then Riley, and then I'm gonna ask the teenagers a question.
Um, I will candidly say I did not go out into my young adulthood with a defined career path. I had no idea what I wanted to do. You know, I was a school board member. I knew that I wanted to be involved in changing my community, and that just opened doorways for me. I was doing some grant writing. I'd had a bunch of kind of, one-off jobs. I worked for a contractor digging holes in the ground. I worked in a laundromat, which I was giving out change. This was before there were automated change machines. So my very complicated job was to turn, $1 bill into 4 quarters so that people could feed the machine. Um, but I was doing some grant writing, and I had, started working for this organization, helping them out on grants. Having been a board member, I had a lot of political connections, had a lot of exposure to state and local government. So they offered me a position running one of the group homes. It was a group home for adolescent boys who were, categorized at that point as emotionally disturbed. We were licensed by OMH and state DSS. So I took the job, and I got sucked into it. And that led me down a career path that lasted for over 30 years. I was CEO for 30 years. I was with the agency for, I think, 30, probably close to 40 years, all told. It was not a planned thing. If looking back at that, would I do different things? Yeah, because not because I didn't love the career. I loved the career. I loved the opportunity to make change, and particularly to work with kids who are in foster care, and kids who are in residential. And in the foster care universe, the kids in residential are at the very top of the pyramid. They are the kids who are really the most alone in the world. So, it was just a great opportunity to make change and to do some really amazing things. But looking back, wow, there's other things I would have liked to do. That's why I mentioned, my interest in volunteering. While I was CEO of the agency, I was also a volunteer firefighter and EMT because it gave me the opportunity to do different things. I think echoing some of what you've heard, I think today you are very fortunate that you are in a world where you're not going to get necessarily tunneled like we were back in the 70s and 80s, where you kind of got into a career path and there was an expectation, oh, you're an accountant. That's what you're going to do. You're going to be an accountant for your life. People have, you can move around a lot more. You can move to employers. I think that in that day and age, there was much more emphasis on you kind of stuck with an employer and you didn't move around a lot. It didn't look good on your resume. I think employees today, people move, like they want different experiences. They want better opportunity in terms of salary and benefits. So the balance of power in that relationship between employer and employee has shifted in, I think, a very positive way. Unfortunately, I worked in the not-for-profit sector most of my career. And, the downside of that is that a lot of people say, I love the work, but I can make a lot more money working for the government, or I can go to work for a private corporation, which is it's just a function of how devalued human services are in the world that we live in. But some things you just can't change, and you rely on people who are so mission focused that they're willing to kind of tolerate. I make less money and I don't have the benefit package I would like to have, but boy, do I feel good about going to work and making a difference every day. So those are the internal values that I think you got to key into what you're in, and maybe your career involves a mix of those things. There is no rule that says you got to have this job and that's all you get to do. You can have other jobs and you can volunteer in different places and you can kind of build it the way you want to build it. It's much more of a build your own, career kind of world. So I think that's a great asset that you guys have moving out into the world. And I would encourage you to try lots of different things try on different roles, do different things, go to different places, and then you decide what really works for me. What do I want to do? So.
I love the fact that you kind of said the career chose you.
And essentially, yep.
Yes, that's pretty amazing. And you're right. There's so many changes back then. If you stayed loyal to a company for 10, 15, 20 years for a very long term. And nowadays, we actually encourage people to change jobs every 3 to 4 years. It's a great way to move up in careers. It's a great way to make more money, but continue to do a difference, make a difference in whatever career chooses you or you chose. Either way.
Yep.
Diana?
Yeah.
If you guys want me to repeat the question, I can as well.
Which one are we on?
How did you decide on your career path, and would you do anything differently?
Okay. Again, I think I sort of gave a suggestion that I sort of fell into my career path to some degree, but I did find that once I went into this particular organization, I lasted for 20 years. I was probably the tail end of the population that didn't make the change from one company to another. I did change jobs within that company. I worked as an underwriter for a while. I then moved into, sales or counseling, and then I went into financial planning. And I did training within the insurance industry supporting each of these functions, which is one way of doing it, but I don't think it flies in today's world. The opportunities that people have, I think, are amazing. I think I tended to be somewhat conservative about any changes that I was willing to make. I wanted the security. I wanted the benefits. I didn't want to get rich. It was technically, I guess, TIAA-CREF was nonprofit at the time. And the job that I was in, and I was also a woman, I wasn't really going to be going very high since I'm not politically inclined. But I agree with the suggestions that have been made here, that it's worthwhile trying new things, but maybe don't jump immediately from one thing to another until you've given what you tried a chance, unless you find out you're absolutely miserable, then of course you're not going to hang around. So I don't know if what I offer is helpful, but I wish you the very best of luck.
I love the fact that you said don't do it if you're miserable, leave. Because, I don't know if you guys should know this, but doing a job that does not make you happy is actually really bad for your health. We do a lot of workshops and trainings around mental health. And that's one of the things we talk about is making sure that you do things that you're passionate about, that you love, because it's good. It's good for you. It's good for your soul. If you don't like the job that you're in, if you're miserable, find something else. And don't leave a job until you find something else. That's the rule. Like, don't quit and then wait to see you get something else. No, like, find something else and then leave. Just to make sure that, unless you have, of course, the funds to take a little break. But I love that you said that.
I'm sorry, may I just
yeah.
Don't be afraid to turn for the help that's available, because that was not available to some of us. I'm old enough that there wasn't the same kind of structure available, or at least I didn't find it if it was there in the late 60s, early 70s.
Yes, we don't accomplish things on our own. Always remember that. You have to have a good support system. Riley, would you like me to repeat the question or?
No, I actually have them with me so I can double check. So it looks like, because I didn't really talk about how I got my first job and that, so I'm going to combine question 1 and 2. Um, I wanted to work from the time could even remember. I actually had the first paper route of a girl in my hometown. My hometown, by the way, was 2,500 people. It's still 2,500 people. So my experiences are very, very, very different from what you all have. I graduated from high school. Then I thought I was going to be a nurse, and I went to Johns Hopkins Nursing School, and then found out if I wanted to do something, it would be a doctor. That was out of the question since my grades weren't enough to get me into medical school. And then I moved to New York really because my hometown was Southern in the 60s. And do your research if you want to know what that means. But it meant that I needed to get out of town. I came to New York. I think my very first job in New York was working with a brokerage firm. I had gone to college. By the way, that's my big, my big suggestion is to either college or a trade school, find something that you can always fall back on. I was in the arts for a long time, but I had my degree in accounting, which, by the way, I got after I moved to New York. I graduated from college with a degree in English and secondary education. And then when I came to New York, and I turned 30. And that was the big thing for me. By the way, there are some of us who really look like we're wasting time, and then all of a sudden at 30 or so, you find that you really want to make something for yourself. So I went back to night school and went to Hunter and got my degree in accounting. And that's when I started going on my first, I guess then after I got my degree, I went to work for a brokerage, an accounting firm, and got that experience. Wandered really into the theater because I took some acting classes, and I guess I'm a pushy broad, and so I I just found my way into management of a theater company. Um, I worked doing wardrobe at the Public Theater, and I dressed people like Irene Worth and Christopher Walken. So, I stage managed. I did all of that all the time, having my degree in accounting and making money as a director of finance and administration. So that's sort of my question to number 1. And number 2, when I turned 30, I thought I've got to figure out what I'm going to do. I really started with the A's and accountant, and that's what I did. And I went back to night school. I think that what I would do if I did something differently, well, I would have been diagnosed with ADHD before. So, because I think if I were going to do something now, I probably would either really go into medicine, or space interests me, so a physicist. So, and I actually have bought math books and algebra. I have physics books that I'm going to be going in and studying. Don't let your brain stop learning. Learning is a big deal. And I guess I was lucky as a child. My parents read to me every night. I was one of those one more story, one more story. And I learned to read very, very early because my father's office was in our house. And so I would go into the waiting room and sit next to the patients and read to them. And all of a sudden, we discovered I could read. And I believe deeply in reading. And if you read, you can own the world.
I love that. And also learning also keeps you young.
Well, hello.
I know, I see it. Awesome. All right. So teenagers, what was your first, I obviously things have changed a lot from the time when we used to go look for work until the way you look for work now. So what was your first job, and how did you apply, and what did you learn from it? So I'll start with Melanie.
My first job was, ooh.
Are you okay, Melanie?
Yes, are you okay? She has to set it back up. You know what? We'll move to Lupita while she gets herself together. Lupita, what was your first job? How did you apply and what did you learn from it?
So my first job was I applied through SYAP. So thanks to Esmeralda and Be the Light youth group, I was able to get my job through SYAP and they helped me through the whole process because I've never really heard of SYAP. I've heard it in school, but thanks to like our youth group, I was able to like learn more about it and be able to get like the job that I did get. And I worked in a school for like a summer school, so I was with the pretty much with little kids from elementary, and it was really nice. And I really learned a lot. I learned that I love kids a lot and that I wanted my career path to be with kids. And thankfully for that, for joining SYP, I was able to get my full-time job with the organization that was in the school. So now I work for them full time and I'm with them and I really love it. And I just love kids so much. So I enjoy my job very much.
That's amazing. So SYAP is the New York City Summers Youth Employment Program. Common Point is one of them that hosts SYAP students and other nonprofit organizations. This is a way to kind of really encourage teenagers to kind of get their first job, to try out, see what their career is like. So pretty amazing that you were able to get into SYAP. And I'm so happy to hear that you're now working full time. And what are you going to school for?
So my major in school is psychology. So I want to be like a therapist for kids. I work with like either elementary or middle school kids. So yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm so impressed. All right, Melanie, are we ready?
Yes, I'm back. My first job was an internship with a company called Roar. I got this program from school. Our school has an app called Google Classroom, and we just upload like messages and stuff. Our counselor put this program, and we had to apply and just take an interview for it.
Awesome. So you applied to the school.
Yes.
Very cool. And what did you learn from it?
I got critical thinking skills and like I lost my fear of public speaking.
Well, you're doing amazing. So yes, love it.
Thanks.
Ian?
My first job, I got it because I learned about SYP, similar to like Lupita said. I got like a lot of information about it. I was sort of interested in it, so I gave it a chance, and then I did like an internship at what's it called? LaGuardia Community College for a little bit throughout the summer. It was really nice. Learned a lot of skills.
Good. Sounds amazing. We didn't have this kind of program back then. Okay, so question for the older adults. What do you think has changed the most in the job market over the years? Before anything, does anybody have any questions that you guys want to follow up from anybody? You're welcome to ask. No? Okay.
I would just like to say that let's not forget also that there's no job, as long as it's an honest job, that is beneath you. And that's a big deal to learn, particularly for people like me who came from a pretty privileged background. I learned about cleaning bathrooms, so there's no job that's beneath you.
I think it's important to learn everything. If you know, because I've done everything from like cleaning to restaurants to this to that, and I think it's a really great way to not only learn those skills but also to understand how a business works. Right? In order to understand how everything works, you have to be able to do everything. But it's a great way to, and also appreciate, right? Because I know that when I go to a restaurant, I so appreciate the staff because I know what it's like. So I'm extra kind and extra good when I tip because I remember how hard it was to be a waitress. I was not a very good waitress. I was awful, and people were always kind to me because I was really nice to everybody. But but it's important to do all types of jobs so you can kind of really relate
And
and teach
I
people skills.
loved waiting on tables. I
Yeah, no, I
loved it,
I was
loved it,
not
loved
very
it
good at
because
it.
it was an acting because I worked at the beach in the summers. And back in those days, I looked like I could be related to Carol Burnett. As far as my customers were concerned, I was her cousin.
I was really good with customers, but I was not good at being a
Yeah.
waitress. I used to mess up orders. I have stories. Okay, but next question. Yeah, the next question was, what do you think has changed the most in the job market over the years? So we'll start with David again. I'm going in order of like where my screen, where everybody's at.
Okay, well, just a quick reference back to summer youth employment. One of the jobs I had when I was an undergraduate, I worked at Jones Beach, and I cleaned a lot of bathrooms, and I loved that job. I loved that job. I loved being there every day. And for a while, I was like, I want to be a park ranger. This would be just a great job to have. Wasn't the road I traveled, but it's one of the reasons why I volunteer at Mohunk now. Um, in terms of the job market, I think the job market today is much more balanced. As I said earlier, you know, years ago, it was the cards were stacked in the employer's favor. We did not have an environment where there was an equal opportunity for people moving into the workplace. I think Diana referenced that she just didn't have the same opportunities as a woman that a man might have had. So certainly there are problems, but we have nowhere near the kind of organized discrimination which used to occur previously. New York City, to its credit, I think has also helped to kind of balance that out by requiring that advertisers for jobs post salary ranges. So it used to be a giant mystery, and the onus was on the applicant to say, the question was, what's your preferred salary range? Well, my preferred salary range is as much money as I can get out of you, but I have no idea what that is. I don't have a baseline, right? So you guys have access to much more data, much more information that's on the web, and a regulatory environment that says you got to have more information put into ads as an employer. I think the web has made it both much more makes employment much more accessible, and frankly, from an employer's perspective, is a nightmare because the agency I ran, we had about 225 employees when I left, and we would run an ad very clearly saying we need a master's level social worker or somebody else licensed in a mental health field for this position as a child therapist, Lupita. But we would get inundated with resumes from people who wanted to be cooks and construction workers and plumbers. And it's like, they're filtering. The poor folks who work in HR spend a lot of time just separating the ridiculous applications from the possible applications. So I think, to sum up, I think it's a much more equal playing field. And that works in your favor, that you really are much more in the driver's seat in terms of deciding what do I want to do, where do I want to do it, and what are my expectations as an employee moving into an organization. And by the way, you have to be realistic. If you want to work in not-for-profit and you come in and you're starting a salary ranges, I expect to make 80,000. I would love to pay you guys $80,000, but we have a contract with the government which says this is the cap on the salary line, which is not going to go above a number that's usually well below $80,000. So, that's kind of the understanding where do you want to be and what do you want to do and what are you willing to kind of sacrifice, if you will, in order to achieve, kind of in sociology, we call it other directed people who have, they're directed by other external forces that are really important to them in making decisions. So that's my take on what's different today about the job market.
Definitely. Diana?
Keep hitting the wrong thing. Well, we already, let me think. We already mentioned something, which was that when I entered the job market, that people tended to go and in general, unlike Riley, who was highly adventurous, generally people went in and worked for the same company over a period of time and didn't go back and forth. Maybe within the company they made changes, but not necessarily out of that company or back. And gradually that changed. I do think that there appears to be like a different way of even evaluating performance now than, as I recall, at least where I started and as I started. You had your you got your evaluations and so forth, but now it's clear what you're setting your goal is, whether you've achieved your goal and so forth. And I think a lot of that stuff, for better or for worse, has shifted to being a lot more like job goal and success oriented. And perhaps that's a good thing. I've been out of the earning job force for a while now. I've been involved heavily in caregiving, family caregiving, and so forth, which is more of a direct service without the same kind of remuneration. So I don't know how helpful my observations may be, but I hope they are a little bit.
They're very helpful. Riley?
Well, I will just check every box that Dr. David made. I agree with what he said. I think a lot of things that have, well, one of the main things that have changed is there are so many different types of jobs now. I mean, we didn't have the technology like that. I mean, you can imagine when Polaroid happened, people were amazed they could get pictures in 3 minutes, and then we got tired of waiting for 3 minutes, and so now it's so different. There's there's the technology things that open the way to apply for a nonprofit. There's Idealist, and there are all of these other online jobs that you places where you apply to send your resume. We didn't have anything like that. Well, when I started out, there wasn't an internet. There were not computers. So just so you know, guys, there were not computers forever. There were 3 television channels: CBS, ABC, NBC. That was it. There wasn't even Channel 5. And the jobs have opened up because now we keep an eye. You'll see, we don't discriminate by age, sex, race, creed. That wasn't the case when I came into being. If you had a, so I keep understanding how privileged I am because I was white. It just is a wonderful, and it's not political. I'm sorry, I don't mean to do that. It's just that that's the difference in the job market, that it has opened up so that everybody should have a fair chance. And I think that's one of the big changes that has opened up to so many different people that it wasn't really open to. And that includes education also. So we're moving in the right way. Slowly, but we're moving.
David mentioned that too earlier, saying that how now there's more equality when it comes to jobs, and so we're moving forward. One way that we used to, I mean, I came from when the computers just started when I was a teenager. But one way we used to look for jobs, I remember we used to go get the newspaper, and then we would sit there and then circle the job we wanted and then call them and make an appointment and then go and then type up our resumes, not even print. And I remember when I was a teenager, when the computers came out, then we would go door to door. I would go to the mall with my best friend, print out, I don't know how many, and then just go door to door and go in and say, hi, I'm looking for a job. And now you can sit behind a computer. And now it's actually, everything is online. And you get to see the job description and how much money, what the salary is. But those were fun times. I miss them, but I don't miss them because now everything's so easy and you can do everything on your phone. But yes, kids, we used to get the newspaper and highlight the jobs that we wanted and call, make an appointment. And
Sunday New York Times.
Yes. Those are fun times. All right, so teenagers. The next question is, well, Lupita already answered this, but if you want to talk a little bit more about this, what careers are you most interested in? Why? So, Melanie.
I'm most interested in the medical career. Like, I really want to be an anesthesiologist. That's always been one of my top dreams. I'm really passionate about that.
Awesome. Lupita, I don't know if you want to add anything else. I know you want to be a child psychiatrist.
Yeah. So at first, my career like paths like have changed because I went to high school for business and finance. So I wanted to be an accountant, and it wasn't until like I got my job through SYP that I like found like the love that I had for children and how it really impacted me, and how sometimes just kids just need people just to talk to them. And I know because we were all there, we were once children, and sometimes we were scared to talk to our parents. So I feel like I want to be that person for kids and be like that comfort and be able to like have someone like they could come to and like talk to me if they need anything, and like try to help like them talk to their parents if they do need like help and stuff. So that's what really interests me now, is just being like a therapist and helping kids and whatever like they need.
That's really amazing. Ian?
I'm mostly in between like the engineering career and like going for a scientist career because like I don't know, I find astronomy very interesting. I find like working with like technology super interesting too. And yeah, it's like hmm, I don't know, between those two, those are mainly the two things that I mainly want to follow after like high school, maybe even college.
I'm so proud and in awe with the three of you, because at your age, I don't even know what I was into. So it's amazing. So last question, because I know we're coming up to 7. So last question for the seniors and then last question for the teenagers. I'm going to go with this question. I think it's really important. So what advice would you give someone just starting their career? And again, we'll start with David.
Be prepared to pivot. You may get into a field and say, you know what, this is not quite what I thought it was going to be. Interesting sidebar for you, Melanie, that when Hofstra University started their medical school, one of the things that they require all of their medical students to do is to get certified as an emergency medical technician and go out and ride the ambulance and provide real care to real people. And I know I have a friend who teaches there, and he said they had some students who said, you know what, that's not for me. So maybe I don't want to be a physician at all, or maybe I would prefer to be a pathologist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist rather. You got to kind of try some fields on and really decide. Same thing with some of the public safety professions, being a police officer or being a firefighter, maybe these are not necessarily fun jobs or could be very dangerous jobs. So it's a great opportunity for people to kind of step back and say, well, maybe not so much. So you got to be prepared to pivot. And I think the other advice I would give is look for what I would call stretch assignments. So, there's within the organization. We had lots of very young, super smart, energized, committed social workers who came to work for us. So, you're always looking, because of the salary structures and the pressures on not-for-profits, people move on. You just have to learn to accept it, that we do a great job recruiting and training people who are going to be great therapists, and they're going to leave us because they're going to make much more money somewhere else. You just have to learn to accept that. But building the layer of supervisors is about finding those people who really have that commitment to the field and the work that we were doing, and giving them assignments that kind of pulled them a little bit out of their day to day. So, I had workers who were like, nope, I don't want to do that. You guys hired me to do this, and this is what I want to do. And other workers would be like, yes, I want to take that project on. I want to get into this new area and really kind of run with it. And in not-for-profits, by the way, there is an endless opportunity to take the ball and run with it. Every not-for-profit is struggling for resources. So you are always, kind of looking for people that are really committed, really enthusiastic, and people do all kinds of things. I cleaned the bathrooms at one point. When we were a smaller agency, I plowed the snow because I lived close enough. So I would go over on a snow day and clear the parking lot. You do what you have to do because there's nobody else to do it. And so you gotta be, I think, open to experiences and be a person who says, yeah, I'll try that. I'll give it a shot. Don't take on crazy assignments like, go solve world, poverty, or, figure out how we're going to feed, everybody in the community, but be a part of that and be willing to say, yep, stretch assignment, I'll do it. I'll try it out.
I love that. One thing that I always tell my staff is always take on projects, and like you said, just say yes to not everything, but just try to be involved not only in what you were hired for, because there's two things that are going to happen. One, the company is going to see that, and you're going to be able to move up to other stages. Like Diana. Diana made, trained in so many different departments, and that's how she moved up, like most of us, right? So that's one thing that's going to happen. The second thing is, if that doesn't happen in the company you're working for, you can add that to your resume and go somewhere else with that experience, so you can kind of move up in your career. So either way, you win. That's great advice, David. Diana?
Got it that time. I would, I guess, take a step back that at this point, you're all early on in your careers, and for some of you, you're still going to school, you're still in the process, or you're planning to go for more education. And I would recommend that even you have the wonderful opportunity to do internships, which was not something that was available when I was coming into the workforce, but to maybe study at least a little bit. When I went to college initially, you had to study across the board. So you'd study English, math, science, economics, history, whatever. And you got a little bit of understanding of a variety of fields, so that you may be interested in medicine, and that may be where you're going to go. But give yourself the opportunity to learn either through school or through volunteering some other things that might either enrich your life or actually change your career, as some of the others have pointed out. So I would just recommend that, even in the learning process, as you're preparing professionally for whatever it is that you're planning to do, be sure to incorporate some things that are in fields that may not be precisely your own. That would be my recommendation.
And mine really just follow both of them. I thought Diana's was really important. And sort of what I was going to say, I had my job, but I volunteered. Because I was a student teacher, went in college, so I volunteered at Rikers Island Prison, and I taught English and math there. And because I had spent a little time in nursing school, I volunteered in the emergency room of Bellevue, and then recently the emergency room at the VA on 23rd Street. I started in the theater. Everything was free there. So I volunteered in there, and then I ended up with paying jobs, and was able to join the Actors Union, Equity and SAG, AFTRA. So I say yes, keep that in mind, and I think volunteering is a great idea. When you're young, I almost think you're not going to burn yourself out. And so, like Dr. David said, if they offer you an opportunity to do something that's not really in your wheelhouse right away, say yes, learn it. You just never know where that's going to lead. And volunteering, you never know who you're going to meet. And you do your very, very best, because People are going to be impressed. I got incredible reference letters from places that I had volunteered just because I wanted to do everything. I was never too tired. You just don't say no. And then as you get older, remember to carve out time for yourself. Even now, and I wasn't before I was working part-time, but I'm studying at Juilliard now. I'm doing a playwriting. I'm taking playwriting at Juilliard. I took an acting class at Juilliard. Well, that's on my resume. You better believe it. So I'm in a way, I guess I'm glad I have ADHD because everything is interesting to me, and I don't say no very often, and I think it's a good thing to not say no and just be interested, and be perky if you can. That's sometimes difficult, but and say thank you. It is such a big deal to show appreciation. So I think those are my best suggestions.
I love it. No, absolutely. I follow that to a T. By the way, I don't say no often. I do a lot of things, and one of the greatest things about that is not only learning about different things, it's being able to have a conversation with anybody and everybody about everything, and that will take you many places because you kind of becoming a chameleon everywhere you go, and especially in like networking settings. Once you guys start a career, whether you're doing networking with a medical field or IT or tech or whatever, like you'll be able to have conversations with people about everything and anything because of the experiences that you've had. And that's really one way to impress people, especially at such a young age, of saying, wow, this person really knows what they're doing and it'll take you really, really far. So I love all the advices. Now I'm gonna ask the teenagers. And I also want to mention that, Lupita, I know that you work with Esmeralda a lot, but I've had the opportunity to work with Melanie and Ian. They've done a lot of volunteer work at Common Points. We've done Governor's Balls last year where they volunteer. We've also done a 5K run. I don't know if Lupita, you were part of that, the 5K run that we did last year in October where we were raising funds for an organization. But these teenagers are pretty amazing and they're on the right path. And I hope that you're taking all the advice from today. But I want to ask the three of you is what do you take away from this? What was your best advice that you heard? What are you taking from this webinar? Melanie, I'll start with you.
I really enjoyed the talk. I took away to try everything and never say no to anything because you never know where it can lead you.
Great. Do you have any advice for other teenagers?
Just to explore your options and don't be scared to try anything new because it may be frightening at first, but it's really not that bad most of the time, and you end up enjoying it and making new friends and meeting people.
Beautiful. Lupita?
What I took away is what Melanie said, like never say no to anything, like try new things and be open to like do different things. Like if some, like for example, if my boss would ask me like, let's do this or let's try something different. Like, why don't you try teaching like the kids something else? Like I wouldn't be like closed and be like, no, I'm like scared. I will be more open to be like trying it and seeing how it goes. If it doesn't work out, well, we'll see. But it's just to like be open and try new things.
And what advice would you have for other teenagers?
Like keep your options open and always like have like a great positive view in life. Like don't just because something didn't work out, like for example, like if an internship didn't work out or a job interview didn't work out, don't put yourself down. Like I always tell my middle schoolers, like they're going into high school, so they're like, well, what if I don't get into this school? What if I don't, like I go and then something happens, or I don't get into like my soccer team on the soccer team that I want? I'm like, doesn't matter. Like you know that you tried and you did your best, and just continue, and you might find other opportunities, or maybe someone else like sees you and be like, oh my gosh, she acts or she plays really good in soccer and can maybe like give you an opportunity. You never know what could happen, and always keep your options open.
Ian?
Similarly to what Lupita and Melanie said, yeah, to always like try something new, never say no, right? Always say thank you, and like, trying to find something that you enjoy. So like, let's say you enjoy science, you go for like a astronomy career, you know?
And what advice do you have for other teenagers? And hi, Kat. I
Mm.
see the cat. So cute.
Hmm.
Love 'em.
I'd say probably like have fun, what's it called? Get to know new people, with these experiences that you're trying out. And to always say thank you, of course.
That. Yeah, have fun. That's my number one rule. If I'm not having fun, I'm not doing it. Does anybody else want to add anything or?
Can I just say that you're going to hear no a lot? Who cares? Really? Look at, you're not going to get into the university that you wanted to. Big deal. So you go to another one. I mean, just learn to let stuff roll off your back too. Don't suffer.
Love that. Yeah, so you're gonna get a lot of no's, but those no's are redirecting you to where you need to be. So awesome, great advice. Great. So I'm going to end the live on the YouTube, but everybody's gonna stay. Bruce, Esmeralda, Anicia, if you guys want to turn your camera on. Just want to say thank you to everybody. This was another amazing intergenerational webinar. We love doing this. The next one, we're going to announce the next one. You can follow us on our Instagram, or Common Point, or CB6, Community Board 6. We're always announcing our next webinars, our next events, and so on. And we'd love to have you guys again. And thank you guys to the panelists. You guys were amazing. This was really great advice. And I hope that the teenagers that we always keep in touch. And I want to see all the great things you're going to accomplish in this world. To the older adults, thank you so much for all your advice. And we continue to see what else you guys are going to do, because now we're all connected. So thank you for everything. And also Esmeralda, Anicia, Bruce, and Mark, who unfortunately had to leave for another meeting. Thanks for always helping with the planning and everything else. You guys were amazing. Have an amazing night. And we'll see you guys soon.